Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live today. My name is Esther. I'm so glad to be your host today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I see a lot of you in our audience from all over the world. We have Alice joining us from Sydney, Australia, Simone from Italy. Let's see, Moira also from Australia, from Melbourne. We have Debbie from New Zealand, Sherry from Brooklyn, New York, who says it's finally sunny outside. So thank you for doing genealogy with us, even when the weather is so great outside and it's turning into nice weather finally. We appreciate you still joining us for a lovely Facebook Live today. We are so glad that you are all with us in the audience. Colleen says it's evening there on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland and not so sunny. So thank you for tuning in even at nighttime. Brian from Canada, and I see a lot of people from all over the world. So thank you so much to those still tuning in. If you haven't yet, just let us know where you're joining us from today. We'd love to see from which corner of the world you're tuning in from. We have a great session lined up for you today. We'll be talking about digging deep into family stories with our feature Deep Story. So it's really an exciting session. Looking forward to it and talking with you about telling stories and the best ways to do that on MyHeritage. So very exciting session. We also have a giveaway today. We'll be giving away a MyHeritage DNA kit. I actually have one right here with me. MyHeritage DNA kit to one lucky viewer. And we'll be giving it away to somebody who shares with us their best family story. We'll be talking about family stories and telling the stories. So let us know your favorite or best or funniest family story that you have. And just write it in the comments section. At the end of today's session, we'll be giving away a MyHeritage DNA kit to one lucky viewer. So we're excited to be able to give that away. Of course, if you already have a MyHeritage DNA kit, you can always gift it to a friend or family member. We all know how important it is to test those around us and, all of our older family members. So we'd love to hear from you. And of course, throughout, feel free to leave comments about the session in general, about sessions you'd like to see happen in the future, and questions that you have for our speaker today. So we have with us today Daniela Levy. She is a copywriter, our in-house copywriter here at MyHeritage. We're so thrilled to have her join us. It's her first time on a Facebook Live, so please give her a super warm welcome. I know you will. I know everyone in the audience is always so enthusiastic. So we're just so thrilled to have her joining us today. Let me bring her onto the screen to say hello.
I'm so excited to be on a Facebook Live. I've been watching these for so long.
We're so pleased to have you. I know that we've been talking about doing a session like this for so long. So I'm so glad that we finally get to make that a reality because I know you're just so good at telling stories and, bringing the words to the paper, so to speak, which is really kind of the same idea when it comes to telling your family stories, right?
Yep. And genealogy is all about stories. And that's what we're going to talk about today, really.
Fantastic. So first of all, we're so excited to see everybody's story, everyone in the audience, as they write their favorite family story in order to try to win a MyHeritage DNA kit. But let's jump into your presentation today, Daniela, and how we can best tell our family stories. Okay,
Sounds
let me
good.
just bring up your slides. Let's see. There we go. They should be up now. Take it away.
Okay. So, digging deep into family stories. First of all, hi, I'm so excited to be here. And I'm going to just start by introducing myself a little bit. I'm a copy and content writer at MyHeritage. And I draw on my background in creative writing and more than a decade of experience as a marketing writer to help my heritage communicate and connect with its users. I'm a storyteller by nature and by trade. So really, I'm all about the stories on my heritage. And I could not be more thrilled to be working with this company. I freelanced for a while and then I got on board as an employee. I could not be happier. So as a storyteller, also little shameless self-promotion here. I am also the author of 3 books, 1 nonfiction and 2 fiction. I've also published short fiction and poetry and creative nonfiction. So stories are really what I'm about. So when I heard that we were going to be developing this feature, I was so excited because it's really all about the stories. And so I think that genealogy is, like I said, it's all about the stories. And I think that the 2 most exciting things to find when you're a genealogist are interesting family stories and family photos. And Deep Story gives you an amazing way to combine both of them. So I'm just going to show you this short video about Deep Story. I just want to make sure that Esther, if we could unmute the slide so that they can hear the sound. Okay.
Let me tell you the story of my life.
Introducing Deep Story. Make your family photos speak and create amazing video biographies.
Je viens d'une longue lignée de motards.
Te pareces tanto a mí cuando tenía tu edad.
Select an ancestor, and we'll create their deep story automatically based on your family tree.
I was born on July 5, 1897, in the small town of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I had 3 brothers and sisters. I was the eldest. Then came Parker.
Customizing a deep story is easy. Use the Deep Story editor to edit and add more details and photos until you're happy with the results.
Let me tell you about the time I almost got on the wrong train. Thank goodness my mother grabbed me by the jacket.
Make your family photos speak with over 140 voices in 31 languages. Try Deep Story now for free.
Okay, so that's Deep Story. Basically, hold on. Okay, so Deep Story, it makes your photos speak, and it can create automatic video biographies of your ancestors using details in your tree. So basically, the more information that you have in your tree, the more detailed the automatic Deep Story will be. And if you have a family tree on MyHeritage, you can just go in there and you will already find suggestions for automatic Deep Stories that will be created automatically, which is amazing, and they come out amazing. But we're going to take it a step further today because it also gives you a whole new way to tell your family stories. So let's go a little bit into stories. Why is it that we're so interested in stories? Like, why are family stories the bread and butter of genealogists? I think storytelling has become kind of a buzzword in today's world, especially in the corporate world today. You hear a lot of like storytelling. And it seems that people have just basically realized that stories are not just for children or for entertainment and having fun. Stories are really wired into who we are as a species. And so researchers have started to ask, why is it, what is it, what evolutionary advantages does it have, does it give us to be able to tell stories? And they've been coming up with some interesting ideas about what stories kind of do for us. So let's go into that a little bit. One thing that we do with stories is we process and create meaning from things that happen to us. And I think this is also relevant for family stories. A lot of times, like I come from a family where we are all storytellers. And if something happens to us, it always turns into a story right away. And, we kind of gather around in the living room and tell it as a story. Maybe you've had the experience where you went through something difficult and you came out of it and you said, well, at least it makes a good story, right? So turning things into stories is a way that we process and understand kind of what happened to us. Another reason for telling stories is to communicate values and ideas. Human beings have been telling stories since the dawn of time, from the cavemen sitting around the fire telling the story of the hunt, and through the ages, the Bible is full of stories. We have the great legends and myths of all these different cultures, and in many of them, part of the idea of having the story is to communicate values and ideas and things that we want the next generation, or at least the audience, to understand or to know. Next, stories help us better understand our fellow humans. We may, sorry for the noise back there. We're both in the MyHeritage headquarters here, and there's stuff going on behind us. So better understand our fellow humans. So things will happen, things happened to our ancestors that we may never really understand. Hearing the story kind of helps us get into their shoes and understand kind of what was going through their minds and what it was like to be them in that time. We also can use stories to explore experiences beyond our own. So if our ancestors experienced things that we didn't experience, learning the story about how it happened helps us gain a new idea, a new understanding of what happened to them. Another reason is to confront questions and fears we can't address directly. This is kind of a deeper like psychological kind of thing. And I think this is connected to people who love horror stories. My grandmother loved horror stories, like horror movies. And I think that those kinds of stories help us because they help us confront things that we may not really want to confront directly, because they scare us. But ultimately, stories help us connect with each other. And I think that family stories help us connect both to our living family members, when we tell our children or our siblings or our cousins or other family members, when we talk about family stories, it helps us connect to each other. And it also helps connect us through time with our ancestors. And that's a very important value in genealogy. So now that we know why we tell family stories, where do we find family stories? So probably as I've been talking, and you've probably been commenting already because Esther started your wheels turning, you've probably been thinking about family stories. Like, what are the big family stories, that people love to tell in your family, or that you like to tell about things that happened in your family? So the first place that we're going to look, of course, for family stories is our own memories, whether it's stories that somebody told us or things that happened to us that we remember. So after we've mined our own memories, of course, we're going to move to conversations with family members. This is also Genealogy 101. You go to your elder family members and you interview them about their experiences, and hopefully you're going to get some good, juicy stories. And one way that you can kind of jog their memories, one thing that I recommend doing when you go to interview your elder family members is to bring photos, because they often looking at the photos will help bring back memories that can kind of get them thinking about stories that they might not have thought of otherwise. So if we don't have any, if we have used up all the living memory in our family, we may be able to find more stories in letters and diaries and other kinds of personal documents, if you are lucky enough to have those around. And if not, newspapers are a great place to find stories. If you're lucky enough to find your ancestors in newspapers, MyHeritage has an amazing collection of newspapers that you can search, and that we have a special name index also that we released late last year, I think it was, that makes it even easier to find information about your ancestors in the newspapers that you might not have been able to find otherwise because of the way things are indexed. But anyway, you should definitely check it out and see if you can find some interesting stories about your own ancestors. So let's move to an example. This is my great-great-grandmother, Lena Schwartz. She is the person I thought of when they first talked about developing this feature, because she's kind of the legend in our family. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the automatic deep story. For those of you who have been following, it used to be called Live Story, and we changed it to Deep Story. So I'm still like, my whole life was Live Story for several months, and still having a little trouble moving over. So Deep Story. So the automatic Deep Story. I'm going to show you the automatic Deep Story that was generated for this ancestor, and then I'm going to show you what I did with that story to edit it and to customize it. So first of all, what the deep story is going to be drawing upon is the facts that I've entered into the tree. So here are some of the facts, that we have about her, and this kind of a laundry list here. I know when she was born, I know where she was born, I know what her former name was and her husband's former name. I know when she immigrated, and, I found her in census records. So I know that she lived on Brook Street in Brooklyn around this time and on Lenox Street in this time. I know that the family owned a Russian tea house in New York that I haven't really been able to locate yet. I know that she had 10 children. Her husband died in 1914. She died in 1945. It's kind of a list of things, which, is interesting to me because, she was my ancestor and everything, but it may not be so interesting for somebody else to listen to a list like this. So I'm going to show you what the deep story did automatically for her.
My name is Lena Schiedel Weinbaum. Here is what I would like you to remember about me. I was born on January 1st, 1857.
I'm sorry, is the sound coming through there?
My father was Joseph Weinbaum. My mother, Mrs. Joseph, was
Looks
born
like it's
in
on mute.
Czesław, Poland. I had 2 sisters. My sister Zlata was born in 1864.
My youngest sister Tama was born in 1866. Both my sisters were born in Odessa, Ukraine. I married the love of my life, Morris Schwartz of Ertom, in 1878, at age 20. I still remember it as if it were yesterday. He was born in 1857, in Odessa. He was 20 years old when we married, the same age as me. We had 11 wonderful children: Becky, David, Max, Eva, Joseph, Harry, Lottie, Bertha, Dora, Lillian, and Samuel. Isn't that incredible? I lived in New York, in 1910. I also resided in Kings County, New York, in 1940. Morris and I had 22 grandchildren. From our daughter Becky, we had Rose, Florence, Abraham, and Elsie. We had Sydney, John, Roslyn, Eileen, Murray and Rui from our son David. From our son Max we had Girl. From our daughter Eva, we had Myron and Robbie. From our son Joseph, we had Geraldine and Murray. From our son Harry, we had Selma, Estelle, Joseph, Lester, and Elaine. And finally, we had Irma and Sina from our daughter Bertha. I'm glad I could share my life story with you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. That's it for now.
Okay, so that was the automatic story, which is pretty amazing that it was able to give all that information and in kind of a compelling way. But also, it wasn't the most interesting thing. And the most important thing, I feel it doesn't really capture what's so legendary about her, right? So what I did was I made a customized deep story based on the stories that I remember. So I'm going to show you what I did with this. Here we go.
My name is Lena Schwartz, or as I was known back in Odessa, Leah Giddel. I was born there sometime in 1856 or 7, I don't know exactly when. I loved the feeling of the snow under my bare feet. One day, I was out hanging laundry when a young man saw me and asked me why I was not wearing any shoes. So I snapped at him to mind his own business. Of course I had shoes. I just liked it this way. A week later, he showed up on my doorstep with a pair of high-button boots. I never found out how he knew my size. Shortly after, we were married. After our first 2 children were born, the Russian army raided the Jewish neighborhood and took my Moishi to the local jail. I understood that they were going to force him into enlisting in the army, more or less as cannon fodder, and I would probably never see him again. So I put on my best dress, took 2 bottles of the best vodka I could find, and went to the jailhouse. I told the guards I was there to celebrate with my husband before he went to fight for glorious Mother Russia. They told me I wasn't allowed to visit him. So I pouted and said, well then, what am I going to do with all this vodka? Several hours later, the very drunk guards let Moishi out of his cell, kissed me on each cheek, and told us to hurry. We ran home, grabbed our children and anything else we could find, and ran away to America.
You hear me now? Okay. Yes. So obviously that was a lot more kind of what that was her story, and that was just one of many legends kind of in the family about her. And it's just amazing to see, even with just one photograph, and that you probably saw in the demo video, it can incorporate multiple photographs. But even with just the one speaking portrait of her telling her story is just an amazing thing. And it's both for me, as her great great granddaughter, who is interested in her story and interested in her as a person, but also for my kids and kind of younger generations. This kind of thing has the potential to really draw them in. Oops, sorry. Got ahead of myself there. Okay, so few tips for creating a great deep story. My first tip is to zoom in and focus on one anecdote. So in that story, I kind of put in 2 that kind of turned into 1. But instead of talking, of course, you can make a video biography of your ancestor and it'll be beautiful and amazing. But also you can use this tool to really focus in on one story. And I think that will be even more compelling in a lot of cases. So another tip is to use the right type of photo. There are some photos that work better than others. You're going to want to use a photo where the person is facing straight to the camera, as it were. And it's okay if they're, looking a little bit to the side or whatever, but kind of the more to the side they're looking, the more the animation might be a little bit distorted and it won't kind of look as nice. Another thing I recommend doing is customizing the voice. You may have noticed that between the 2 versions, one of them, the voice was customized, or one of them, the voice was different than the other one, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. And when possible, enrich with additional photos. If you happen to have more photos of this ancestor, then you can add them, you can edit and incorporate them into the appropriate parts of the story. And my last tip is to think outside the box. It doesn't have to be a story. It can also be the ancestor reading a letter. I'll show you an example in a minute of kind of an outside the box thing I did with a certain deep story. So now let's go ahead and take a look at how it works. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to go into a demo. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. There. So here we go. So this is the deep story lobby, as we call it, on your family site. You can reach this by going to the Photos tab in the navigation bar and selecting Deep Story. If you are not a MyHeritage user yet, you can also visit myheritage.com/deepstory and you'll be able to upload a photo and just start the process from there. But if you already have a MyHeritage account, you will find suggested deep stories right here in this lobby, and it will show you various deceased people that you have on your tree who it might be able to create a live story for. So these are the deep story. So these are the deep stories that I've already created, and I'm going to go into here. You can click these 3 dots and go into edit. Also, when you create a deep story for the first time, it will give you the option to go into this editor and to edit the deep story. And this is where the magic really happens. So this is the customized version that I made for her. I can go in here and change the text that I wrote. I can write a different story. I can, if I had more photos to add, I could add them here by just clicking here and uploading a photo. I can choose voice options. So I want to show you something cool about voice options. There's lots of voice options in English, but the thing is, of course, this was an ancestor of mine who immigrated from Odessa. Her accent was probably Yiddish. She did actually speak Russian without an accent. So I want to show you what it looks like. I can actually give her a Russian accent. It's not perfect. We still don't have voice options for non-native speakers, but what you can do is you can, or if you've already written up your story in your native language, you can go into the language options at the top of the page here. I know this is scary, but you can select the language of the accent that you want. And hold on, we're going for Russian. Now my interface is going to be in Russian, but I'm not scared because I know what all these things are. And I will be able to hear her saying these things in a Russian accent. Let's see if you can hear this.
My name is Lena Schwartz, or as I was known back in Odessa, Lirgitel. I was born there sometime in 1856 or 7, I don't know exactly when.
Okay, so you can hear that she has a very strong Russian accent using this. And of course, when I'm done, I can just change one thing there. And this button is going to be the one where I can save and create the new live story. And then once I've done that, I can go back in and change this back into English. There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now I'm going to go and show you one more example of the kind of out of the box deep story that I made. This one is for I think he's my great uncle. He was actually a poet, and I decided it would be really interesting to make a live story, deep story of him reading one of his poems. So I made this. If Esther could just unmute the browser.
Hi, I'm John D. Nussbaum. I'd like to read you a poem I wrote that was published in The Carpenter in 1911. Little children. Worlds of joy. Round each darling little boy. Round each precious little girl. In one rapturous motion whirl. As I look into your eyes. Little ones, a paradise. Looms up, blossoms into sight. Full of infinite delight. And a longing at the core. Of my heart sighs, evermore. Evermore, O heavens mild. Let me be a
Oh, it seems like we lost Daniela for a moment. Please let me know if you can see me and hear me now. We seem to have had some sort of technical difficulty. I think we lost Daniela, and I hope she'll join and finish up her presentation. So let me know if you can in the audience. I see a lot of great comments here about people who said, this is so exciting, we can't wait to try it. It really is. Deep Story is an incredible feature. Oh, here I see that everyone can see me, and I see Daniela has rejoined. Sorry about that. It must have been a little heavy for the system, and we seem to have lost her, so let me bring her back in to finish up. Here we go. Hello, Daniela.
Hi. Yes.
Sorry about that. We lost you in the middle of the poem, so we're so sorry.
Okay. Well, I guess we can share a link to it in the comments later, so you can watch it yourself. But basically, it was really amazing to be able to, hear my great uncle read this poem that he had written and published that I found in the MyHeritage records through Deep Story. So that's basically it. I just, this is such an amazing feature, and I think it has so much potential for, giving us a new experience of connecting with our ancestors and connecting with our family history, and also future generations. I think that the younger generations really might enjoy this. So that's all from me. I'd be happy to take any questions we have now.
Okay, great. So first of all, I definitely agree with what you're saying about the younger generations, and I think just putting our ancestors in this perspective of them telling their stories, it just makes it so much more relatable. I know that there's a lot of controversy to seeing your ancestors talking in a format that's maybe not exactly accurate to how they exactly looked or sounded. But there's just so much value in, emotional value in seeing them tell their stories like this.
Absolutely.
So I see we did have a few questions. Pauline asked, can two people's story be combined into one deep story, such as a grandmother and grandfather, grandma and grandpa?
Well, yes and no. There's only going to be one speaking portrait per live story, but of course you can use that person to tell the story of both of these ancestors, and you can incorporate photos of the other ancestor. You may even, if you're a little tech savvy, you might be able to kind of stitch together the two videos, because you can download the videos and use them however you want. It's yours to play with and to use. So you might even be able to stitch together the two videos so that you have one video of both.
Okay, great. Pat, do you have to belong to MyHeritage to use this feature?
Also, yes and no. You do not have to belong to MyHeritage to start using it. You can just go to myheritage.com/deepstory and start uploading a photo. There will be a process where you will be able to sign up for a MyHeritage account for free. As you're creating your live story, you will be able to create a few live stories for free, and then after that, it's just for paid subscribers. You'll be able to make as many live stories as they like.
Okay. Dottie asks, what if I have a story but no picture to go with it? Good question.
That's a great question, and I think it's a situation that probably we have for a lot of ancestors, right? Because especially the older ones, we may not really have story. We may not have a portrait. I haven't tried yet seeing what happens if I upload a picture that's not a face to a talking portrait.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can make a deep story without one main face as the.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you need accompanying pictures. It is nice to have those background pictures. They definitely add color to the story, but those aren't necessary for the deep story.
Exactly.
But that main photo of the talking ancestor, that's the whole. So without that, unfortunately, we can't really create a deep story. Let's see, I did see one more question. Sue asked, does the person need to be deceased?
Yes, that is the rule. We have our terms of use. We want to make sure that this feature is used in a way that is safe and respectful of everyone's privacy, and therefore you can only use this feature for people who are deceased.
Okay, so just one last comment here from Elaine. She said, I would like to try having my father read a letter he sent to my mother during World War II.
That's a great idea, and yeah, I would love to see that deep story.
Yeah, Elaine, that sounds like a fantastic idea. And I think that's kind of where you were going with this, Daniela, just that, you know, you can think of things that are out of the box, like having that poem being read. It doesn't have to be them telling, you know, this is how many children I had and this is where I was born, but it could really be out of the box ideas, and reading a letter and having the letter, you know, displayed in the background is it's just a lovely idea. And that's
and make those deep stories and share them with us. We love them. You know, share them on social media, tag us. We love it.
Yeah, we'd love to see that. That would be fantastic. So a lot of really great ideas coming up here today, and I hope to see many deep stories come out of it. Fantastic. And we'll just take this one last question before we go to our winner today of a MyHeritage DNA kit. Suzanne asked, can you share them on social media, like on Facebook?
Absolutely. I think there's a direct share button to Facebook. You can also share it as a link, or you can download it as I think it's an MP4 file and share it however you like.
Yeah, they're very, very shareable. And I think that, you know, all your family members would just be thrilled to see it and to hear their story, to hear your ancestors' story. And they're just, they're such an exciting thing, especially for occasions. You know, if you're marking the birthday of an ancestor, or, you know, if there's an anniversary or any special occasion, I think it's a great opportunity to make a deep story for them and share it around with your family.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we have the pleasure of giving away a MyHeritage DNA kit to one lucky viewer. Thank you, everyone, for all the lovely stories, you know, because we're all about telling stories today, and I'd love to see all these stories be turned into deep stories. But for today, we are giving away a MyHeritage DNA kit to one lucky viewer. And our winner today is Marcus Papotz. And Marcus wrote to us and said, my grandmother is 85 years old. I've been trying to do her family tree for years, but I never found anything about her maternal line. Only DNA matches that we knew nothing about, and that was because a family secret was involved. In a recent conversation, she accidentally revealed that her mom was adopted, and this made me think that her last name was actually different at birth. So I looked in the records, and I found more information on her previous family name and her adoptive parents down to the 1700s. I can't believe a small piece of information would lead to such wonderful discoveries.
That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah, so incredible discovery there, Marcus. And wow, it's just amazing how one little hint sometimes can just open up a whole world of discoveries. And especially using MyHeritage, we know that that is definitely possible. So congratulations on winning a MyHeritage DNA kit, and please message us on our Facebook page in order to claim your prize. Thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us today. Of course, if you'd like to rewatch and get all these ideas again, just go to the MyHeritage Facebook page under the videos section, and this session will be saved. You can also check out all of our past Facebook Live sessions. They're all saved there. Thank you again, Daniela. What a lovely session. I think we all yeah, it was really fun. And I think we all have a little bit of a different perspective now about telling stories that we'll all take forward with us. So we can't wait to see all the deep stories that come out of it.
Yes.
And we hope that you all have a great day wherever you are. So thank you, everyone.